Hello everybody and welcome back to Matt's Trains and Tractors. I'm Matt and today we are going to be looking at arguably one of the best locomotives Lionel has ever made. Some people say the Niagara is the best. Some people say that these upcoming Vision Line Southern Pacific steamers will be the best. I'm talking about the ones coming up in the 2020 catalog. But really, in my opinion, there is no best. This locomotive in front of you has loads of fun and cool features that we're all going to check out today. So this is the Vision Line Big Boy 6 years later. Highly detailed locomotives and really just showing their best. So when I say 6 years later, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that Lionel first offered the Vision Line Big Boy in the 2014 Signature Edition catalog. The Vision Line Big Boy is available in multiple road numbers. There's of course 4014, the famous one in the Midwest. There's 4004, 4012, 4017, 4018, 4006, and this one that you see in front of you, 4005. Is there a reason why I got 4005 over 4014? No, there really isn't. It's just the way things turned out, and honestly, I'm very, 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 very pleased with the purchase decision that I made. As I said before, this locomotive has a bunch of fun and cool features that really shocked me 6 years ago on Christmas Day when I first received this locomotive. So I hope that 6 years later you guys can still enjoy them. So let's check them out today. Although this is a Vision Line Big Boy, this is not the first Big Boy that Lionel has offered. Lionel has offered several Big Boys in the past, but none of them are quite like this. Vision Line is a level of engineering and software and a bunch of cool features that go into the trains that's just taken to a whole new level and always surprises me whenever I get a new engine. And it doesn't necessarily have to be Vision Line. Legacy is also amazing as well. Lionel is always trying to be bigger and better, and really this engine has shocked me and I'm very pleased with the way this turned out. So let's talk about a little bit of history on the Big Boy. The Big Boy, the Union Pacific Big Boy, in real life was produced from 1941 to 1944, built by the American Locomotive Company, or mainly known as ALCO, exclusively for the Union Pacific Railroad. The Big Boy locomotives were designed to handle heavy freight traffic in the Midwest and in the mountains. They mainly pulled coal loads, although I really don't have a lot of coal cars. I plan on getting some coal cars soon to just expand my freight consists with this Big Boy, because in real life this was the most powerful steam locomotive ever built. So why not replicate that on the smaller layout that I have here. The Union Pacific Big Boy is a 4884 type steam locomotive. That means that there are 4 wheels up front, 8 drive wheels here, another set of 8 drive wheels behind, and then 4 wheels on the trailing trucks underneath the cab. Starting at the front of the locomotive, we have the plow, or what I like to call the cow catcher. Then moving up, we have very nicely done, separately applied grab irons and handrails. Here we have the Union Pacific 4005 plaque, and here's the headlight. These number boards on the side of the headlight are illuminated. There is another illuminated number board sign on the other side of the headlight. You just can't see it from the angle right now. Then moving up on the locomotive, we have 2 green marker lights. These marker lights can be turned on and off from the Legacy remote. Then moving up, we have 2 lighted number boards, And then right here we have where it's supposed to be the bell is. Now looking at the front left side of the locomotive, as you can see we still have our light and number boards right up here. And we also have the smokestack right here. This smoke dome can be removed. It's just held on by a little magnet right there. And all you have to do is just take your fingers and pop it right back in like that. I usually always leave the smoke dome on. I think it looks really cool and streamlined like that. Although it can be taken off, and then if you want to put it back on, you can just snap it back on. It's as easy as that. Here we have some separately applied valves here, and these valves are extremely detailed. They even have the little handles on them where your hand would in real life would grab it and then turn it to relieve or increase pressure in these pipes. These pipes are also very nicely applied to the front of the boiler. And here we have the whistle steam. There will be a nice shot of whistle steam that shoots up from the top of the locomotive. Before we move on, I would also like to just mention one thing. The smoke box door on the front of the locomotive also opens like this and is held on by a little magnet and swings shut like that. Moving down, we have the piston that in real life would create steam pressure and drive the drive rods and driving the wheels and propelling the locomotive forward. But of course this is powered by motors because there's no real steam in the locomotive. That would be really, really cool though. And moving down towards the pilot, there are separately applied and very, very detailed, looks like maybe some small domes or cylinders in there, probably to hold steam in real life. Let me zoom in on that so you guys can see it a little better. Now, this locomotive really shows what Lionel can do. Lionel is very, very capable of creating super, super highly detailed locomotives and really just showing their best. And right here you can see all of these separately applied pipes and hoses and just a bunch of things that are great. Now you may be asking what this is right here. That is to hold the boiler of the locomotive onto the body as it swings around curves. This locomotive is not articulated in the center, so it must swing to get around curves. Similar to the Y6B, if you guys are familiar with that, there is no articulation point in the middle of the locomotive. It must swing out and then the actual body and wheels will turn with the curve as the boiler glides on top. So speaking of that, this locomotive is minimum curve is 071. So if you have anything less than an 071, such as an 062, you really can't run it. The minimum curve is 072. Luckily, on my outside main track, I have 072 curves, which I'm able to run the big boy on. Moving on towards the middle, we have another piston here, and this is getting its feed of steam in real life from a nice big hose coming right off of the boiler, and that is very, very highly detailed. On some parts you can even see the rivets and bolts, especially right there. Let me zoom in for you so you guys can see the detail. Moving back, we have the drive rods. Similar to the piston, the drive rod also has very, very nicely detailed bolts and rivet outlines. These do move when the locomotive is running, so that creates a really, really nice realistic look on the locomotive. Moving up, we have this canister that's kind of held on to the side of the locomotive that says Hydro Test, 200 pounds, 12-7-41, 12-17-41. Right here we have a nice little pressure reliever that kind of hangs down like that. That would probably spray some steam out. Then basically this is pretty straightforward. The boiler is very, very nicely detailed and has a lot of thought put into it. There's some domes up here, another valve here. These do not spray anything when you release the dynamo, or when you do blowdown or water filling. I know some people think that when you do blowdown, smoke will shoot out of the locomotive, and guess what? On this locomotive it does. Right beneath the cab, there's a little blowdown tab right here. You simply have to insert smoke into the proper smoke input hole, which I'll show you guys in a second, and then smoke will spray out, creating the illusion of blowdown. It also sprays out on the other side, so it isn't just one side getting the blowdown smoke effect. While we're here, let's take a look at the cab. Right here beneath the boiler, we have the firebox chamber, and when the locomotive is on and running, the firebox will glow and create the illusion of red hot embers and coals inside of the firebox, which I think is also really, really nice. That just goes to show you how Lionel is always thinking of how to make things better. We also have some more separately applied hand rails and hoses and pipes going along here. Just really, really nice detail. Moving up, we have a small handlebar. Moving up, we have a small handlebar up here, which I imagine is so when the crew needs to come out here and, let's say, make a repair, they have something to hold on to so they don't fall off. Because in real life, the big boy is very, very tall. I believe each wheel is somewhere around 4.5 to 5 feet tall, which is pretty tall because I am only 5'7". So I'd basically be the height of the wheel. As you can see, Lionel has done a fantastic job detailing the crew and the areas around and inside of the cab. These windows do open and close like that, and there's also a little flap on top of the locomotive right up here that can be opened. You need like your nail just to pop it open like that, and then there's a little tab that can keep it open, and in real life that's just for airflow when it gets too hot in the cab. As you can see, this is the fireman's seat right here on the left side of the locomotive, and on the other side of the locomotive we have the engineer right there, who you can see in the back of the cab, but it's really just the right side of the cab. Also, there are very, very nicely detailed curtains here, and these curtains do not open and close, but they are very, very highly detailed, again, to show that they are pulled back, and in real life, if you release the string, the curtains can close or they can open up. While we're here, let's take a look right underneath of the cab. We have some more very, very nicely separately applied hoses and pipes. Here we also have the truck. This is your last set of 4 wheels. This is the trailing truck. Trailing meaning that it's the trailing wheels. And always think of the trailing truck on steam locomotives as the truck right beneath the cab, or in some instances it is a little forward, but just think about the truck that's closest to the cab. Here's a look right at the front of the locomotive at the builder's plate. What you're looking at right in the middle of your screen right there is the builder's plate, and I believe it says American Locomotive Company, or built by American Locomotive Company. And then right below that we have another plaque that's probably saying something about the big boy. Not exactly sure. As we pan to the right, be sure to take a look at all the very, very nice detail alongside of the boiler if you weren't able to see that already. Here's a better look at the firebox that has little holes there, probably for airflow or ventilation in real life. As you can see, Lionel is just going above and beyond. Here's a better look at the cab, 4005, and right below that it says 4884. So remember, that's our wheel arrangement on the locomotive. And then it says 68 and something something something. And then right at the very corner, bottom right corner right there, it says UP, and of course that means Union Pacific. Speaking of Union Pacific, let's go take a look at the tender, where the name Union Pacific is written all over it. Just letting you guys know that this locomotive does have traction tires on some of the drive wheels to help it get up those steep climbs if you have any climbs on your layout. So this locomotive is prepared to grip the rails and power your consist all the way to the end of the line. Here, as you can see, it says fire hose only. I imagine that's where if they need to take water out, they pop the fire hose in there and they take water out. Here, of course, Union Pacific, and honestly, I must say the tender is probably my favorite part of the locomotive. I know you're probably saying, what? Are you crazy? Maybe I am, maybe I ain't. But personally, I feel like Lionel has done an exceptional job with the tender. I don't know, it's just something about it that looks so cool. And also the depressed coal load feature. So it's a real looking coal load, but it's some sort of rubber up here that after a certain while of the locomotive going around the layout, the coal load will depress, meaning that there's an air pump in there that will occasionally take a little bit of air out, causing the coal load to sink, and it creates like a hole of coal, and then you can fill it up by pressing and holding the 0 button on your cab 1 remote or your reset button on your legacy remote, and that fills up the coal. Here's a builder's plaque, I believe, of the tender. And also what I think is very, very cool about this is that these doors right there open up like that, and that is very, very nicely done by Lionel. Good job to them. As you can see, we have more beautiful outlining of bolts and rivets on the side of the tender. This is also a little better look at the coal load. As you can see, it's already a little depressed in the middle. I believe this is about the highest it will go. It may be able to go just a tiny bit higher because I had to move it out. So maybe the air pump took a little bit of air out while I was preparing the locomotive for the review. But like I said before, if you want it at full, just press and hold the reset button or the 0 button on your cab 1 or cab 2 remote, and it will fill up the coal load via an air pump, and you can even hear it if the locomotive's volume is quiet enough. As we move further down the tender, we have some very, very nicely separately applied handle rails here, just so it's not as dangerous when you're up top. Also, these flaps up here open up like this, and there's one more right back here, and they all open up like that. And the first one does not say anything. The second one says coal on or off, and that coal load, that's talking about the depressed coal feature. And also on the top of the tender, it's very, very clear that it's wooden up there. So Lionel has done a nice job laying out the wood flooring up top. And then the last one is volume, master volume. You can put a little screwdriver, in this case it's my pointer, and turn it, and you can adjust the volume of the locomotive, or you can do that directly from the remote. Here's a look at the rear of the tender. As you can see, we have U.P. and that just stands for Union Pacific. Then right below that there's 4005, the road number, and below that there's the information about the tender, which is also very, very highly detailed. That says 25,000 gallons of water, and then right below that it says something that I cannot read through the screen of the camera. And also right alongside we have, just moving the engine back a little bit, we have a separately applied ladder. There's one on the other rear side of the tender as well. That is also very nicely done. Just zooming out here a little bit so you guys can see those lights a little easily. So as you can see, there's one here and one here. Those will turn off if you hit the aux 2 button. That turns off the lights, except for this one. That will remain on, I believe. And then when you throw the locomotive in reverse, this little light right in the middle will turn on, and it's a white light. And just like on your car, when you put the car in reverse, it turns white. So maybe they got the idea of that from the Union Pacific Big Boy, who knows. Here is just one more look at the locomotive in case you guys were wondering. As you can see, Lionel has just done a fantastic job. I mean, every time I see this running around my layout, I always think to myself, wow, did they just take the real Union Pacific big boy and use a shrink machine? Because this is just beauty in and of itself. Let's take a look at the top of the locomotive and then we'll start her up. These are just simple controls. As you can see, we have program run switch, Odyssey, no Odyssey, main smoke off, main smoke on, whistle smoke off, blowdown smoke on or off, master volume right there, and then, sorry about that, my light went off again, and then right there is the fluid entry point for the smoke fluid that would go into the blowdown smoke unit. Alright, we got power on the track and we are ready to fire up this locomotive. I really gotta hand it to Lionel. They have done a spectacular job with this locomotive, and I really don't think there's anything they could have done better besides securing the connection from the top of the number boards to the bell. Like I was saying earlier, the bell sadly did come off. I believe I know where it is, but I'm not 100% sure. There's always replacement parts on the Lionel website that you can find online. Everything's almost online these days. But anyways, let's just start it up. This locomotive has a great startup sequence, and we're going to take a look at all of the sounds and features, and then we'll run it around.
Union Pacific 4005, do you copy? Over. Roger that. Union Pacific 4005, I read you. Over. Start up and stand by. Over. Yes, sir. Start up and stand by. Out.
Alright, as you can see, it's not very loud, but this locomotive does have fat boy speakers. This locomotive is right now remembering the volume that I set it to last time, right before I powered it off, and that's 2 volume settings down from full, just because full is so loud. Lionel has an amazing sound system in here, so let's turn it up and let's give it a listen. So right now we're gonna hit the 1 button on the remote. That's right up top, right here. So now it's at full. I'm not sure if it's coming up on the camera, but I hear that it's a little bit distorted. Right now I'm just kneeling down behind the camera to make sure the shots and the volume is coming out okay. But if you stand up, it actually sounds better. It's strange, but that's just the way I feel. Maybe it's the acoustics in my train room, but I'm going to turn it down 1, and let's see if there's a difference. Already, I feel like it's just a hair cleaner, and to me, that's better. Let's take a look at the bell. So it's a rather quick repeating bell, but I actually like it a lot. Right now smoke is not on, but here, take a listen at the blowdown sound effect. And this is the sound of the water refueling.
Our water's full. Over. Roger that, 4005. Out.
This locomotive also features single shot bell and continuous shot bell. So, and if you hold it, you get the continuous shot. just like that. And I am extremely sorry that my light decided to go out in the middle of that. That is a real shame. So here, take a look at some crew talk.
This is UP4005. Coupled up. Air test complete. Can we depart to the main line? Over. Yes, 4005. You may proceed. Over. Roger that. Here we go. 4005 out.
So the crew talk you just heard was directly from the cab, and I did that by hitting the 2 button on my remote, right there where my thumb is, and that got the crew talk from the cab. Now let's listen to some crew talk from the tower, and I'm going to do that by hitting the 7 right there.
UP4005, you are cleared on to the main. Over. Thank you much. Cleared outbound. 4005 out.
Alrighty folks, that's just about it for today. That's really all I have. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. I always respond to comments, and I scroll through the comments almost every day to see if there are any questions or nice support. Feel free to give some support or questions. I will be answering them to the best of my ability. That's really all I have for you guys today. So please stay safe. Please stay healthy. Matt from Matt's Trains and Tractors, I'm out.